Okay. So guys, I had to drive to another Starbucks. So this is part 3. Alright, so the concept of a map. Okay, I want the viewers to check out this image of Vedic mythology. I have been always fascinated with this idea that there is more to life than what we see. The moment they told me that the human being has sensory perception, I understood what the veil was made of. That means the other worlds are hidden by the fabric of this one. Do you understand? That means our truth is hiding the other dimensions. And perhaps it's necessary beyond our understanding, who knows? There's many things in my inner realms I meet where I just don't have an opinion, and I'm just like there staring as an app, just as a moment of sight. Another image worthy of seeing is this one, which is incredibly low pixel. Oh my god. Who has dared put a low pixel, Vedantic mythology picture online? Who has dared make it low pixel? So, dear viewers, the reason I'm sharing with this is not to push you into a hysteria of, oh my god, but just to give you a sense of how the human mind, our greatest tool, has helped us map reality, okay? So, we have the concept of the lokas, and I have heard of only one beautiful story I know about these lokas and a yogi. So, simply said, Earth is like the bottom of this celestial mountain called Mount Meru. If you look at the picture at the left, Earth is at the bottom, and it goes up to these 7 upper worlds, and the highest world is called Brahma Loka. And in Vedic mythology, yogis were trying to get to Brahma Loka because that's the state of being where nobody reincarnates anymore. That means if you're still reincarnating, it's as if from the eyes of Vedic gods, it's like, what's wrong with you? Can you imagine just somebody addicted to cigarettes, there's a being addicted to reincarnating, and all the other gods are like, yo man, when are you going to put away reincarnation? And there is something heavy in human psychology that maybe some part of it feels that it has to carry a burden and let itself get crushed by the burden. So this mythology is a cool sense of mapping, reality. And some people are like, Mr. Within, why do you cough so much? And I'll be like, coughing was an ancient ritual, asking the gods to bless the moment, Ultimately, guys, I'm not trying to make people be like, yo, just like the Avengers, choose your favorite god. I'm trying to tell the viewers that when you are done touching the idea of God, you will understand the experience of truth has a different meaning. And the experience of truth, there's two approaches of it. Either infinite or the void. Either selflessness or incredible selfishness. Because you see, the question is, like, imagine from a monotheistic theological standpoint, a hypothetical story. This philosopher got to heaven, and he's at the pearly gates, and the person was like, yo, you're a philosopher. Imagine an angel at the pearly gates was like, yo, you're a philosopher. I don't know, like, if you even want to go to heaven, And so, let's say the angel says you can't go to heaven because you were like an agnostic or something. You don't care that much for truth, right? And then imagine the philosopher says, I was perhaps one of the only ones who cared for truth. But imagine the philosopher says, before you can even judge me, you have to know what I am. But in the lifetime, I didn't know who I was. So God is judging a being that didn't know who it was. And whose fault is that, for example? Right? Or the view could be brought forth, right, that the person's like, it was all God from the beginning. So who is going to hell? Is God going to hell? Is God going to heaven? Is God's will going to heaven or hell? Do you see? It's as if it was as if wasn't man created in the heavens? Wasn't man a heavenly creation? Whatever man, regardless of what wrong he did, in some sense, was he not made in the stars? Do you know? So you see, we have a heavenly origin, regardless of the sin. And so do we remember our origin. So, now let's say somebody says, Mr.Within, I don't know, have you experienced these lokas? I will tell you something that I have never said before, and people are going to be like, probably WTF. But I feel I have a house in Tapaloka, and I feel sometimes I've felt, this might sound like very egotistical, but sometimes I've felt like a friend of God, a pilot of God. Do you know? But not the conceptual God, because I cannot fathom a subjective partner to it. It's as if the force that moves all cannot be just limited to a word. Religion was a message, and people are worshiping the message without reading it. Do you know how many young children in religious countries are being raised without understanding, like, the prayers they're reading? Without understanding the behaviors they're doing. This has been just the nature of being a creature. Do you know? I saw something that kind of broke my heart, but I was like, okay, these are the savage levels of nature. I saw this weird nature documentary where there was this baby monkey right, that belonged to another monkey, and then this other random monkey came, and for some reason this monkey was like gripping the head of this baby monkey savagely, and for no reason. Do you know what I'm saying? And I was looking at that and I was like, oh, it gave me goosebumps. Why? Because I understood the savageness of violence, the savageness of forces. It's impure. Do you understand? Like, violence is, if you were alive back in the day, like I'm telling you, the moment we create time machines, the criminal system's going to be something else. They're probably going to be like, based on the person's savageness of crime, they get sent back to that savageness of timeline, right? Do you know what I'm saying? What I'm saying is, like, there is savageness in reality, and man's advancement is that we found something better than fighting. And it's your mind. It's so unique. It's the closest thing to alien technology. If somebody says, what's the closest thing to alien technology on Earth? I'll be like, yo, I've looked in the mirror sometimes, you know? Now, guys, the descriptions of these locos. By the way, guys, I've created my a lot of systems from my own. This Vedic mythology, the reason I'm sharing it is because its detail is so unique. It's like I'm sharing probably one of the coolest stories ever heard. Okay, guys, so I'm gonna read this for you. Check this out. The Vedic tradition describes the concept of lokas, or realms of existence, which are said to be different levels of reality inhabited by various beings. Here are some of the commonly described lokas in Hinduism. Bhuloka, this is the physical world, where human beings and other physical beings exist. It is considered the lowest of the lokas, as it is subject to change, birth, and death. Okay, so guys, this is where we are, and even though we're like the lowest loka, we're like the youngest sibling, we're the youngest child of the family of God, poetically. Okay? So the youngest kid has to, like, has something to prove, So Bhuloka is where we are. This is Earth. And it's a reality where beings experience change, birth, are subject to change, birth, and death. Okay? So that's the nature of our dimension. You might be afraid of death, you might be celebrate life, you might be in the middle having so many different, like a wheel of emotions, a roller coaster of emotions. But really what I'm saying is that this is just how it's designed. This is it. Things come into there. It's a performing dimension. Things come and perform, and then they dip. There's another place called Bhuvar Loka. This realm is said to be located above Bhuloka and is inhabited by divine beings such as sages and saints. It is a higher plane of existence than the physical world, but still subject to the cycle of birth and death. Yeah, this in New Age, in the New Age community, they call it the astral plane. Okay? Or, excuse me guys, excuse me, I totally forgot. The astral plane is called Antar Loka, and it's between Bhuvar Loka and Bhuloka. So Bhuvar Loka is just above the astral plane. I don't know what you would call it. So all those people who are like, yo, where'd my guru go? Your guru went to Bhuvar Loka. Guys, imagine like these dimensions are like hotels. You get to Bhuvar Loka and a receptionist comes in. It's like, oh, welcome, sir. Do you have a booking beforehand? And the person's like, I did some good deeds on Earth. It's like, okay, let's see. We might have a room for you in Bhuvar Loka. Then we go to Savar Loka. This is the realm of the gods, where the Devas gods live. It is considered a place of great pleasure and happiness, free from pain and suffering. This could be seen to be, I guess, Mount Olympus. That would be a Greek interpretation of it. It could be seen as heaven. This is Savar Loka, is heaven, the Christian heaven, the religious heaven. And then we have Mahar Loka. This realm is inhabited by the great sages who have attained a high level of spiritual realization. It is considered a higher plane of existence than Savar Loka, but still subject to the cycle of birth and death. Okay guys, this is not descriptive enough. Let me find a better. Okay, check this out, all right? Guys, I can't find it for some reason. Okay, whatever, here. So, the 7 upper worlds are the Burloka. The Vishnu Purana says that the earth is merely one of thousands of billions of inhabited worlds like itself to be found in the universe. Okay, so, technically we got a party with other universes, it seems. Oh my god. Can you imagine hosting a universal party? Bhuvar Loka, sun, planet, stars, space between Earth and the sun, inhabited by semi-divine beings. It is a real region, the atmosphere, the life force. Yeah, so that this means we think between the sun, we think space is empty, but it's like a, it's housing celestial, divine beings or whatnot. You see, guys, in ancient mythology, there was a consideration of a type of being that was so advanced that it no longer needed to have a body, and based on the type of beings it would communicate to, its body would appear that way. There have been you can call them the eternal advanced communicators. These are beings that they are so advanced that I think in this lifetime, just like how somebody sees whales in the ocean like it's rare, I've seen a few beings, maybe twice. I've seen a being that I felt was a very advanced being on Earth. I don't mean like a guru. I just mean I felt like the karma of that being was like it had a backing of a universe. So imagine like it's like sponsorship. Imagine like Hunger Games, that scene where people were sponsoring outside of the Hunger Game. So similarly, it's kind of like the potential within the DNA. There's something unique. It's like, anyways, I'll keep reading. Savarloka, region between the sun and polar star, the heaven of the god Indra. Indra, Devatas, Rishjas, Gandharvas, and Asparas live here, a heavenly paradise of pleasure, where all the 330 million Hindu gods reside along with the king of gods Indra. So this also can be depicted as the monotheistic heaven where all the beings have everything they want. It's like the Patanjali in the Yoga Sutra said this world is the shadow of a greater one. That greater one is in some sense like Savarloka, I would say. Do you know? We are a fractal, lesser privileged version of Savarloka. Maharloka, the abode of the greatest sages and enlightened beings like Markandeya and other rishis. So why is this the abode of great sages? Because the great sages are beings who are capable somehow, during the lifetime, of preserving a certain decency resonance. Okay? I don't know how, but somehow they're capable. This decency resonance means that they have decided to remain pure in the presence of the total unknown. Do you know? And that gives them ultimately an otherworldly like class. I don't know how to say it. I'm saying if this was a video game, that would be like a cheat code. Not a cheat code, but a shortcut. Then we have Jana Loka, abode of the sons of God Brahma. So as if imagine God has a family and his sons are living in Jana Loka. And for example, I don't want to say this, but for example, when Christ said, "I'm the Son of God," if you were someone who was into Vedic mythology, you'd be like, "Yo, that sounds like Jana Loka," as if Christ had the consciousness of Jana Loka in Bur Loka. Do you understand? It was as if like a being, like pretty much like a karma-free being, technically. But a karma so free that its mind is not here to even have the karma. That level. Do you know? I don't know, guys. These are just the rhythms of visionary thought that's arising. What I'm trying to tell humanity is that your greatness is within your whole moment. Anyways, we go to Tapaloka, abode of tapas or other deities. Ayonija Devas live here. Now, guys, this is where I would say the siblings of God live. This is the uncles and aunts. the uncles and aunts are all living like, the sons, the siblings of God. Even like, let's say the family friends of God are living there. Like, let's say the friends of God are also in Tapaloka. And then we have Satya Loka, which is another way of saying Brahma Loka. And it says Brahma's Loka or Satya Loka planetary system is not eternal, abode of truth or of Brahma, where Atman are released from the necessity of rebirth. So you see, like the higher dimensional beings, they might not be reborn, like the demigods might not be like reincarnating, but they still have identity. Only in Brahma Loka you're completely free. You're free from being shape. Because death is like let's say death is like a sort of ignorance of shape. Do you know? That means it's very important the type of being you think you are is suggesting how you're going to experience the context of your world changing. And let me tell you, the lower worlds, they just become more unconscious, savage, and sad. So mankind, you might not think Earth is a paradise, but at least it's like yin and yang. It's like nothing too fucked up can happen and nothing too great and otherworldly can happen unless the collective nature changes. Do you know what I'm saying? This is why I'm saying we can't be too fictional and we can't be too non-fictional. It's weird, but it's like the way to go. As the Buddha says, the middle path. Think of it this way, that alongside, like let's say we entertain the view that we're this physical creature in a physical world on a rock in the middle of nowhere. Imagine that's first base. And humanity got to this started from this position. Then we were like, what else could be going on? Then we realized our mind is non-physical. Then we realized there's a capacity for memory. There's a capacity for visualization. There's an ability for the mind to move beyond its limits because it can acknowledge it. There is something that has been watching your life from the beginning of your birth. And it has not been a creature of shape, it has been a presence of attention. And so when the human species liberates itself from the desires, from the blind desires of its identity, to the freedom of its humanism, that every human has a heartbeat, that every human has a future, that the future of humanity is the greatness of the species. Because how else will in the bizarre shall mankind bring order? It's as if the world started from chaos. Nothing meant anything at all. And then we decided to value things. And slowly our ancestors lived for something. And we have come to 2023, 4.5 billion years of evolution, advanced mechanisms at work. Just like Tony Stark ready to enter the Iron Man suit, the moment we open our eyes in the morning, consciousness logs into the human experience and the journey begins. And so with what sort of honor will your eyes roam this unknown world? And so you will realize when Mr. Within says the era of teachers and students is over, the era of explorers of an unknown world has begun. Do you see? We're all explorers starting from our own inner realms. Some things are more real than other things. But what else can we do but to stare at them as long as then at some point we feel like, okay, there must be more. Do you see? And it's the force, it's the life force, not ready. It's as if it hasn't seen enough yet. Do you see? And so the future has a value beyond what the past can say. Do you know? And so this is the incredible thing. Do you know that the world doesn't know where it's going? It's the ultimate poetry. Do you know every person is acting? It's a theater of conviction, it's a mirage in a desert. Yet we smile in that mirage. Why? Because what else do we do in the world? And so this is where the idea of the advanced civilization comes in. That means imagine an extraterrestrial species was invading Earth, and then the geniuses on Earth suddenly built these giant robots. Do you know? And imagine these giant robots running on the Earth and then jumping. And then suddenly us seeing the most next level like event in our skies, you know. There is a great power in being human. And it is as if it is the intention of the divine. When you accept you are the small, the big communicates to you. And I mean this in the mystical sense, not a cultural sense. Why are our eyes open? What is the great journey of 8 billion creatures in the void? The human species is the lions of the Milky Way galaxy, you know? Can you imagine milk companies being like, yo, we gotta start manufacturing, you know, we gotta start developing an interstellar marketing department. Can you imagine in the future there's like a businessman trying to sell like manufactured goods to extraterrestrials? You know? And that guy becomes the greatest salesman on Earth? I don't know what it is, but there is our ancestors, like when there was a king, like just think about it, guys. Back in the day, kingdoms were fearless, right? Even though they were cruel, but they were still fearless. And what would fearless kingdoms do? Right? The kingdom had a flag, had a banner, do you see? And it had a sort of army, and this kingdom would in some sense march beyond its limits, right? And even though there was a sort of arrogance and ignorance in history back in the day, now we see it, but back in the day they didn't. But from their perspective, it was like a purity. That it was as if the purpose of the masculine archetype was in some sense to roar into the world. And the purpose of the feminine archetype, to allow infinity's roar to never end. I don't know how it is, you know, it's like I get visions of the future, but I get an emotion that they are living with such a deep level of honor, an honor that is not real now. Now everybody's like, yo, I'm just my name, my personality, give me a break, leave me alone. Yeah, I think this is what freedom is. And people think that's what life is, right? But it's as if there's a giant that's asleep, and it's the great vision of the human species, and it lives within all of you. Who else am I speaking to? Somebody in the chat section asked a very interesting question. Mr. Within, what would non-cruel, benevolent kingdoms do? Let me tell you the most bizarre answer. They become invisible. Those beings that reach the ultimate power, let's say for now, the way I'm saying it, at least I'm communicating through the Mr. Within teaching. I shouldn't say even teaching through the Mr. Within podcast, is like it's like benevolence, okay? For now, if you're a human being, but just meditate on benevolence. But if you want to know what an ultimately powerful being does, an ultimately powerful being is so powerful that it is done proving its own power to itself, so then it becomes the power for everything else. So the ultimate, it's another way of saying the evolution of the ultimate king, and the ultimate kingdom is into the ultimate world. So they become the world. So what that means is, if in this lifetime I be suddenly started, let's say somebody said in 3 minutes you're going to become the most advanced being on this planet, right? And imagine I was like, yo, only in 3 minutes? I say. And so in that 3 minutes, if I was to fathom what would happen is I would have an experience the same way I'm comfortable moving my biological body. I would probably have that experience, but with the whole world. Do you know? And if that state was possible, it's another way of saying a being so fast it went faster than light. A being so advanced it went beyond the demonstration of power. So what I'm trying to say is that greatness is actually being so advanced that in some sense it's smiling through its journey. Because our only strategy to fear is the performance of the human species. Do you know, it's like I'm trying to get everybody, I think one day I gotta go find the chess community. Do you know? I gotta go find, like, you know, the chess community and get them to try to use that, their mental power for a mystical puzzle. I'm telling you, this is the one thing 100% I've experienced in this life, that mysticism is the greatest puzzle. It's like a privilege to even be able to be in a world where there's mystery. Do you understand? That means there's stuff we don't know, and that means we're actors till the end of time. So this is why they say, kind of like, when you don't take life too seriously, then you start enjoying it. Why? Because it can surprise you. This is what intellectual precision forgets, right? This is something where, believe it or not, it's like if a person wants to always know how the future is going to happen, they're going to no longer feel alive. Do you know? So for me, the way it happens is that while I look at certain things in the present, I see their potential and I see their future. Like, I can look at a tree and tell you that probably in like 200 years there's going to be technology connected to trees. And I could tell you something else. Probably in 200 years, there's going to be these androids, which are going to be like emergency, like health and defense units, and they're going to be roaming the forests of Earth till the end of time in case somebody gets lost in the forest and an animal wants to attack them, and that android's going to defend the person. And also be an emergency global, like, you know, saving unit or something. The future is incredible, dear viewers. It's kind of like the species is kind of caught trying to be like the past, forgetting it has to be something that has never been seen before. What is the value of being a creature? Like, every person is occupying a moment of the space-time continuum that nobody else is. Do you understand? We're being something that nobody else is, and that is our unique value. There's going to come a time in the future where there's going to come a great library of names, and every person's name's going to be in there, right? And every person, the advanced civilization is going to request every person in some sense to write a book about the eyes, the way the world they saw that nobody else could. It's just honor, guys. That's what's missing. I'm telling you. At first I thought it was like too corny. I'm like, really? Do we need like samurai level honor? And then I realized exactly. But we need a samurai level of honor, not for the past. That means I'm this person who I like the idea of a king. If there was a really great king and queen in front of me right now, right? Imagine there was a woman in front of me that was like worthy to be a great queen, right? I would go and serve her kingdom. I would go serve her. I don't know what the term would be. Queendom. Okay, the English language is what I'm trying to say is that royalty had a value, okay? And royalty meant that every human being in the kingdom understood that there was something very valuable. There was a human archetype that was valuable. Do you understand? Now, I thought about it that in some sense, every person in their inner realms feels kind of like a king on their own throne, right? When I try to imagine things, I feel a strange freedom in my mind. Do you know? I think many people are like this. Then free will is kind of like, if you're religious, the free will is like a prince. If you're not religious, the free will is acting like the king. What I'm trying to say is, what is the value in this world? Okay, and in some sense we have to, this is what's happening, right? People think humility means you don't look ahead. Humility means you accept the box that's over your head. Who said? You know, it's like what we really need is an ability for human beings to be like, oh my God, it's a magic show. Let me tell you why, guys. Let me tell you, Mr. Within's going to make an argument here that the world is a magical place. Okay, and people are going to be like, no, yo, what do you mean magical place? You know, and I will tell you, say atheists, you know, it's like, you know, it's like, break the walls, you know, covering your ears and listen, you know. In magical thought, in fictional magical thought, okay, there was this idea that magicians back in the day had a book of spells, okay, had a book, okay, and so this book of spells had the ability to change reality, okay, had an ability to change your world, right? And this is the earliest form of magic where people were like, yo, what is magic? It was freaking language, right? That means somebody would come and say, yo, you know, you're a bad person, and the person didn't know what to do and had never heard a sentence, had never heard somebody else give them a value other than themselves. And so the world started to get entranced by something that was abstract, that was living behind our eyes. So we have been cultivating a life that is internally as an abstract entity. And so we are here thinking we're just physical beings. You don't believe in God, but you believe in the idea of yourself. It's like, isn't everything in the void? So you see, I was like, whoa. If language has something to do with spelling, do you know? Then what the hell is the dictionary? And I was like, oh my God, the dictionary is a world simulator. The dictionary is giving you worlds. You give your attention, and in exchange it gives you symbolic reality. And it's remarkable. Language should no longer even be seen as magic anymore and should be treated as technology. That means that your identity is your use of technology as a creature of attention. You know, the advanced humanity is incredible because it's an internal force. It's like suddenly, just like everybody who saw the Oliver Twist movie, right, where that kid was like, can I have some more? You know, and the guy was like being, you know, cruel and whatnot, and everybody's was like, yo, that kid deserved more grub, you know. Similarly, there will come a time where the human species will look at itself and be like, what have we been keeping from ourselves? We have been and I thought, how do we stop all wars? Do you know, I was like, okay, let me be that fool trying to solve this problem. How do we stop all wars on Earth? let's say this is post mental stability of everybody on the planet, post mental health. I would say that the way we stop wars is that we begin to acknowledge that just like the idea of family, right? The concept of family, that family fights, but at the end, in some sense, it makes up or finds a way to get by, throughout the lifetime, right? Similarly, it's as if we suddenly, every parent starts telling their children bedtime stories of the great human family, of the great human species, of the advanced teams, as if like those children who were inspired by heroes of myth to in some sense build advanced teams, in some sense advancing the human experience. What it is let me tell you what power will feel like on Earth. It will feel like you're pulling your fallen comrades from a battlefield. Do you understand? It's pulling the lesser dimensions to our level, and with an advanced force raising ourselves to levels beyond. Do you understand? So the idea is every intelligent being begins to be like, okay, what would an advanced species, an advanced planet, an advanced movement in the universal sector look like, right? And strangely, when the human being embarks upon the journey, the conviction, the songs of the advanced civilization are heard, this is where other dimensions, if there are any, will assist us. And even if you're religious, it would be as if God would be like, my creation has understood that it is the creation of the greatest creator. Do you understand? What that means is we are here to see what man's greatness is before our eyes close. What else can we do here? It's a performance thing. And shall the species perform? So many human beings come and go. I was like, yo, they're trying to teach, my teachers are trying to teach me stuff in school. How many human beings, like what knowledge is how we've looked at it so far. When will people wake up? When will people realize there is an unknown variable in their moment of perception? The mysteries are still here. We're living at a time where we're saying we have minds, but we don't know what the mind is. We're amidst the language wars. What that means is that ideological systems are trying to occupy the human attention. Where the free will must animate something new, past ideological systems are asking it to repeat itself. Oh dear humanity. There will come a time where you will see the past is past, the present is waiting, and only the future is where you can perform. Because I got bored, I'll be honest. Like, if the future didn't exist, I'd have no reason to be alive. I'll be honest. Because the past just happens and it's done. Do you understand? Like, it's kind of like it's like the part of the film we've already seen. And so what we haven't seen is how we direct ourselves through the free will. And you know what it is? People don't understand. Religion is when free will converts to divine will. Swami Krishnananda explained religion the best. He said religion is God remembering himself. Religion is for those class of beings I call the singularians. The singularians believe that everything is one being. And then the voidists believe everything is nothing. Nothing is the supreme being. The dualitarians, the dualists, they believe that in some sense it's a simulation of self and world. So it's a dualistic simulation. And then there are those who I call the infinitists. And the infinitist is too soon right now for human beings to be in that mindset. But what it is that it would be a state of a fearless humanity. We can't experience that yet, because we're temporary organic beings. But there may come a time where the human mind looks at this earth and feels that it can breathe. Imagine like waking up, breathing, and realizing you're never going to die. Imagine being the first immortal on earth, who you breathe and you realize you're never going to die, right? But at the same time, the world is changing. So in some sense, immortality is also like being the irregular in the regular. But you know, who knows? This world seems to be an exploring mechanism. It seems like we're this invisible force that just wants to accumulate experience. We're like this transcendental entity which is absorbing experience through mobilizing the moment. That means sometimes I don't know if I'm like this invisible sphere that's moving everything within it, or I'm in some sense what's within my awareness that's moving. Do you know? Ultimately, though, I've come to a contentment with the unknown because I experienced that shock factor. If somebody says, Mr. Within, what's been your like biggest or like your most important spiritual experience? I would say I just realized that the unknown is present. And that was literally like, it was like my heart stopped. My mind's heart stopped for a moment. You know why? Because the truth of eternity renders all action as simulation. You see, you're living as a human being, but some people are realizing that we are being human. The being is like of space, non-physical kind of space, and the human part is what's moving in accordance to the space. Our reflexes are think of it this way. At the edge of your peripheral vision, your inner realms are kind of recreating it too. And so the heaven you seek is your own hidden truth. So mapping is very important. Let's say you're somebody interested by these talks. You've heard me say we're a designer species. So this is my strategy, right? And it's not just my strategy. Many people have had this strategy. It's probably like one of the best things you can do in this world is that you, for 10 minutes, 10 to 20 minutes, just sit down wherever you are in the middle of whatever you're doing, and just like a video game, press pause on everything, every idea, whatever you think you got to do. Even don't even try to meditate on whatever. Just press pause and just look at the moment. And then just watch the moment, and for the first time have enough honesty to be like, okay, maybe I don't know what I am. Maybe I don't know what my mind is. Maybe the point of it is to be unknown. You see, that could be an incredible, beautiful irony of reality. Creatures seeking knowledge to be powerful, not realizing the truth is unknown. It's the honor of entrance into the greater modes of being. Dear viewers, on this earth, your actions hold within them an animative force. And what this means is everything you do, whether it's like eating an ice cream, or in some sense being a NASCAR driver, or being a mystic in the Himalayas, whatever action you do in this reality, it just opens up a space where right the moment you do it, it's kind of like breaking a veil and a spirit animates. So this might sound energy, but those Tai Chi masters, right, in the park who think they're like moving this inanimate like energy sphere, like if there was a shaman doing Tai Chi, like a Native American shaman, that sphere would be animate. And so what it is imagine seeing a living being and the honor you have for the life of that living being. Imagine you start having that honor of life in every moment. That you begin to see, oh my God, the world is alive. You see, why else is the communicating mind here? Why is there greater faculties of perception? Why is it that all other species are asleep and that humanity is awakened to unnatural modes that give it angles of activity that other creatures don't have access to? We are the chosen ones, It's as if the cosmos is Morpheus and the human species is Neo. So anyways, guys, thanks for listening. I hope this episode was helpful. What else can I say? Get a piece of paper when you're sitting down, and just wonder about reality. You know, I've done this many times where I've just sat down from scratch with a pen and piece of paper and tried to reinvent the wheel of my context to the world. And it's so fascinating because you'll just realize how many ways there are to look at life. And at some point in the intellectual journey, this is when the Raja Yogi becomes a Bhakti Yogi, you will realize that there is an infinite ways to articulate life. So then you don't have a preference, and poetically this is where the concept of divinity becomes the reality of the force that is moving you. What else can be divine? You are alive in the void. You were looking for God. The inconceivable is conceiving all the time. Who said God has stopped creating? The greatness of man is the greatness of his world. You can't be an advanced being when the world is suffering. You see, this is the bodhisattvic archetype. The advanced communicator is literally the bodhisattva archetype for modern society, for the advanced civilization. Anyways, guys, thanks for listening. Share, subscribe, like, comment, join. And something I've been thinking of recently is okay, never mind. Let's talk about it later. Thanks for listening, guys. Rise, mankind, rise. Blessings.